Somebody challenged me on my numbers the other day. So 1.7 million, those are the known gotaways. Those aren't the unknown. Those are the known gotaways during Biden's tenure. That isn't Big's number. That isn't Sara Carter's number. That is the Biden administration's number.
Folks, open borders have a direct effect on our nation. It is affecting our national security. It is putting our lives in jeopardy and that of our children. And it is also putting the lives of the migrants that are coming into this country, being forced and trafficked by these nefarious drug cartels and human traffickers in some kind of modern day slavery event. It is also affecting their lives. And we need to put a stop to it. In fact, we must put a stop to it. I was on last night on Twitter, MySpace. We were there with Border 911. This is, I'm humbly grateful to be a part of this incredible team with Border 911, with Tom Homan, with former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Mark Morgan, who was with the DHS, Derek Maltz, all of you know him. All three of them have been on my podcast many times talking about the border. But Derek Maltz, who was working with special operations out of the Department of Justice, and he was the one that has busted so many of the big terror-related border issues like Project Cassandra. He is fighting every single day for parents who have lost their children to the horrors of fentanyl poisoning in our nation, which, by the way, our adversaries are gratefully bringing in to target us as a proxy war, that adversary being China, using Mexican drug cartels as proxies. And these aren't just words. This is about people. This is about our children. This is about children from all over the world that are also being utilized in sex trafficking rings, being sold, being lost in our nation to God only knows what. How are we allowing this to happen? Last night on the Twitter space, last night on X, I got to get rid of that Twitter. Last night on X, we were able to go onto the space and invite the audience, anybody, anywhere in the world, to join us to know the truth. And I think that's such a brilliant, brilliant platform. It allowed us to talk directly to an audience. It took out the middleman. And we were able to answer questions as to what can we do to better educate the public on what is happening at the border. We don't want it. This is not about a movie. We're not a TV series. We don't want you to be exhausted of the story when you turn on cable news networks or when you listen to me. We want you to be a part of the solution. This is not to entertain you. This is to teach you. And that's what Border 911 is doing. We are going to teach you how to fight back. We are going to give you the tools. It's knowledge. The weapon is knowledge. So that you can go to your lawmakers and say, absolutely not. This is unacceptable. If you do not change your course of action, we are voting you out of office. And not only will we vote you out of office, we will make it a point to expose you. And that means telling the world what they're voting on. That means allowing your constituents and the people in your own community to know what you are actually doing as a representative. And for you, each and every one of you who's listening to this podcast, it is giving you the power back. Seize the power that our founding fathers have given you. Our founding fathers established a nation where the people are in charge of the government. I usually say this at the end of my podcast, but I'm going to say it at the top. You are in charge. Whatever happens here on out, it's because you let it happen. I really believe that. It's because I let it happen. And I've got one of the biggest voices speaking out against the atrocities that are happening at our border here with me on the Sara Carter Show today. And that is Congressman Andy Biggs. He's a good friend, and he is probably one of the few lawmakers that stands on principle and believes what he says and educates the public and fights for his constituents in the great state of Arizona. His district has been directly affected by the open borders policy of the Biden regime, and he is an expert on the border and national security. He's also an America First patriot and, of course, a dear friend. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. But first, folks, Beam, are you getting enough sleep? I know I normally do not get enough sleep unless I have something to help calm me down and get me ready for bed. And I got to tell you, Beam is the best thing that I have found. I am very excited about this because did you know that poor sleep can cause weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and lower productivity? When you have my schedule, that is a very, very real possibility. And it is hard to get your sleep when you're traveling around the country so much and you're working so much. And even sometimes when I'm home, it's just hard to come down. So I want to introduce you to Beam Dream. You know, we've been raving about Beam's Dream Powder, their healthy hot cocoa for sleep. It's so delicious. And today my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar, folks. Now available in delicious flavors like sea salt caramel, cinnamon cocoa. Oh my gosh, the cinnamon cocoa is absolutely delicious. And the chocolate peanut butter, love them all. Better sleep has never tasted better. A recent clinical study revealed Dream helped 93% of users wake up feeling more refreshed, and 93% reported that Dream helped them get more restful nights sleep. It tastes absolutely divine. It's creamy. It's delicious. You can mix it with milk. You can mix it with water, however you want to do it. But I'm telling you, you will not regret this. It is absolutely delicious. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder and get up to, listen to this, 40% off for a limited time, go to shopbeam.com/Sara Carter. That's SaraCarter, and use code Sara Carter, SaraCarter at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Sara Carter and use code Sara Carter for up to 40% off. Super excited to have Congressman Andy Biggs on the show with me on the Sara Carter Show today. And now I've only got 11 minutes because we get along so well. We were talking about his music. He has a band. I'm so excited about this. You represent Arizona's 5th district in the United States Congress. So not only are you fighting for your constituents and doing the hard job of battling against the idiots over there up on Capitol Hill and the executive branch, but you are entertaining your constituents with music. I mean, you're in a band. I love this. How did I not know this?
Yeah, I don't know, but I will tell you the band thing. When they asked me to kind of get to form a band up here, I said, look, I played in so many bad bands when I was a younger man that I have to have really good musicians to carry me. I hadn't played in a band for 20 some odd years, 30 years, whatever it was. And I said, so we got to get good. And I will tell you, everybody else in the band is really, really good. And they carry me. And my favorite comment anybody made to me is after the first time we did it, we didn't get a lot of people. We might have had 50, 7,500, whatever it was. And they came and this guy comes up to me afterwards and said, well, I only came because you're a congressman and I didn't expect you guys to be any good, but you guys are really good. And I'm like,
that's amazing.
That's really awesome.
That's really awesome. A great compliment. So now I've got to go and write a review. So you better live up to it because I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out there. I'm dressed this way. Like I'm kind of like Spy Games right now because I'm going to be heading to the border, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about. It's rainy, cloudy. It's supposed to calm down by the time I get to the border in McAllen tonight. But you're dealing with significant border issues in your district as well, Congressman. You're seeing, I'm guessing, an increase in crime. You're talking to your constituents about what is happening at the U.S. Mexico border. And obviously you've seen and you have been on top of everything that is happening in Israel right now at their border and what occurred in Israel, the atrocities there. How concerned are you? And how is your district dealing with its own issues?
Well, I'm incredibly concerned with it, and I'll tell you why. So in the last week or so, they've released 10,000 illegal aliens into southern Arizona, right? So they're just, before they were actually just sending them all over the country. Now they're releasing them in southern Arizona because there's no place to put them to even wait for transport, if you can believe that. And the number of people who are coming through, a couple weeks ago, I was talking to one of my CBP sources, and I said, where are they getting them from? He says, we're getting them from Mauritania, Northeast Africa, and Syria. He says, Syria is heavy right now. Well, that's what the people they're catching, Sarah, and you know this. So between the ports of entry, when they're sending people through, the good grief, we have no idea where they're coming from. And these are the people who don't want to be caught. And when you think of how easy it is now to go up, surrender, make your asylum claim, and be shipped to anywhere you want to in the U.S., these got to be some pretty bad hombres who are trying to avoid it. And the number under Biden is in excess of probably 2 million people in the term he's been in office.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues that we have faced in the United States and I think this is probably the biggest crisis that we're facing right now, is our open border and the neglect of the open border. And you brought up something very important, people coming from Syria. And this is something that I was discussing recently with an analyst by the name of Joseph Humeyer, and we were talking about Venezuela. And he was saying to me, did you not know, and I hope everybody listens to this podcast that we have with Joseph Humeyer as well. He said the relationship between the Venezuelan government and the Syrian government goes back decades and decades and decades. And there is a significant Venezuelan population in Syria as well. So we have this wide open border. We have the issue of extremists, Islamists, and terrorist organizations that have been eyeing our border from some time. What are you hearing up on Capitol Hill? I mean, do they, at the federal level, or even up on Capitol Hill, when you're talking to other lawmakers, do they not take this seriously enough, or do they just think, oh, this is not going to happen?
Well, so
is it alarmist to them? Like they just don't believe it'll happen?
Well, there is a lot of powerful rhetoric up here. But they're not quite sure what to do because they keep wanting to pass policies and do new laws or try to do something like that. That isn't what's necessary. What's necessary is enforcement. You have to enforce border security. And so in order to get border security, my colleagues, they don't want to do what I believe is necessary. What's necessary, frankly, is if you really wanted to do it, you would say, we're not going to fund any of your Green New Deal projects. So the bill we're going to go vote on now is filled with Green New Deal projects. So you would say, we're not going to fund that bill until you actually enforce the border. We're not going to enforce the government. We're going to make sure our military personnel are paid. We're going to make sure CBP is paid, ICE is paid. We already by law make sure that all of the mandatory spending continues. But until this group of people says this is so serious and it is such a threat to national security that we're going to actually be willing to risk the disapprobation of the American people because they think we're in disarray because the media will say that. You have to hit them with the one check that the founders gave us that's very powerful, and that's funding. And so you fund the people that you got to fund, and you don't fund anybody else, and you say, stop it, and we're not going to fund anybody else until Biden enforces the law, until Mayorkas enforces the law. And then you have to impeach Mayorkas. I mean, you have to impeach Mayorkas. Why? Over all the things that are happening, just one of the things I think is the telltale reason to impeach him, besides all the other physical evidence that we have, is he sat in our committee and said, Sarah, he said, I think you probably saw this. He said, yes. Yeah, we have the border operationally under control, even though there's statutory definition. We said, well, this is the definition, and you don't meet that definition. He says, well, nobody can meet that definition, so we've created our own definition, and by our definition, we have operational control. That is, you are flouting the law. You are failing to do your duty, and you're doing it purposefully, and you're telling the Congress that you don't really care what the law is. You're just going to do whatever and create your own narrative. Because if the American public understood the narrative that was real, if they understood what was real, they would fire your butt.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know how we're going to hold them accountable other than holding back the funding. But if we have Republicans who are voting alongside Democrats and not holding firm and holding the Democrats accountable and actually being a part of the problem, then why should they stop? Why not? You know, it doesn't seem like they care about the American people, those that are voting for these type of bills. It doesn't seem like they're holding our bureaucracies accountable. They're not even holding the Biden administration accountable. I mean, it's like in our face, and we have so little power over it unless we vote these lawmakers that are not doing their job out of office. And I mean, that's what the real power is, right? I mean,
yeah.
Can you hold them off with the Freedom Caucus? Can you hold them off? You know?
No. I mean, we'll see what happens with this bill, but when you think about this, somebody challenged me on my numbers the other day. So 1.7 million. Those are the known gotaways. Those aren't the unknown. Those are the known gotaways during Biden's tenure. That isn't Big's number. That isn't Sara Carter's number. That is the Biden administration's number. And believe me, they don't want to tell you the real numbers, but that's the number, 1.7 million known gotaways. And for us to hold them accountable, it takes the American people saying to your members of Congress, please make them enforce the law, and maybe they'll come along. But look, you've got people as disparate as Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, who's saying the border's out of control. You've got to enforce the border. You have to secure the border. You've got Chicago's mayor saying that. You're actually starting to see people from the other side of the aisle say there's a problem. But you know who doesn't say that? The leftist radicals in Congress. That's the Democrats. And none of them say it. I mean, Henry Cuellar, I love Henry Cuellar, Vicente Gonzalez, they will say it, but they won't vote to do anything about it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Human super beats, folks, we all have a heartfelt reason to support our blood pressure. In fact, more than half of the U.S. population would benefit from blood pressure support. I know I do. And not only that, I benefit not only from the blood pressure support that I get from Super Beats Chews, which is part of Human Super Beats, but it also makes me feel good. It makes me feel awake and alive, and I love the feeling I get, and it tastes great. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beats are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than healthy lifestyle alone. I carry them with me all the time. When I go to the border, when I'm traveling around the country, I put my Human Super Beats, my Super Beat Chews, right in my pocket. I took them this morning. I feel phenomenal and they taste great. So you never have an excuse. If you get Human Super Beats Chews, you're not only going to be helping yourself, it's going to be the easiest thing that you can do for your health. You put it in your pocket, you put it in your purse, and you take it with you. It's just that easy. Supporting healthy blood pressure comes with a bonus. Super Beats Heart Chews supports healthy circulation. So you not only get blood pressure support, guys, you also get productive, heart healthy energy without the crash. Double your potential with Super Beats Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beats Heart Chews and 15% off your first order by going to getsuperbeets.com and using promo code Sara, S-A-R-A. That's getsuperbeets.com, code Sara. And before, I know this is a drive-by interview because I know you got to go vote right now, and that's your most important job. But how concerned are you about sleeper cells in the United States and the fact that our lawmakers are downplaying so much of this and not sounding the alarm bells?
Well, I think it's real. I think the sleeper cells are real. I've had briefings that indicate that we are justified in our concern. I can't say what I've been told, but we are justified in our concern. The cartels control the borders. Hamas is infiltrated Venezuela. So we're seeing people come on up, and what's coming through the Darien Gap a month ago is now arriving at our southern border. You had another record last month. We have people, we have no idea who they are, Sarah, and they exist. And I do not want us to wait until something terrible and horrific happens because we have been less than vigilant on the border before we do something. And you've been calling it, you've been a champion, a hero on this, and you've done a great job trying to raise the narrative. I've been trying to raise the narrative. I've been fighting this thing. There's others. There are a lot of good people in the Republicans.
Michael Yon, a lot of Republican congressional members that have been out there. And
but we're fighting this entrenched cartel, the DC cartel, the swamp, deep state, uniparty, whatever you want to call it. They refuse to acknowledge it. I mean, I did a podcast this morning. What's the big idea? And we get these little things, and I mentioned numbers of by the end of the Biden administration, he will have encountered more than 10 million illegal aliens crossing the border. And somebody says, "Oh, did you pull that number from your nose?" Of course not. That's a real number. It's not Biggs' number. That's the administration, you leftist wacko nut job. Why don't you admit what's happening and then let's fix it? But we can't fix it because I can't even get enough of my Republicans. They don't want to impeach Mayorkas and hold him accountable. They don't want to, some of them don't want to actually hold the budget hostage, that's what we were given by the Constitution. That's ours. That's our check and that's our check to balance out the other branches of government, is to hold the budget.
Right. That's the only real weapon that we have at our tool in the toolbox, is to hold them accountable. And I'm going to end it with this, and you can wrap it up if you want after that, or you could just leave and run and go vote if they're voting now. I know they need your vote. But I want to leave it with this. If who's going to pay the price? Who's going to admit in the end when people die? When people die because of a terrorist attack, and it happened because of our border, who in the government is going to say, yeah, mea culpa, I'll go to jail for that because I opened the border wide open and I allowed this to happen to the American people? I'm guessing no one.
No one will do that. And don't forget, you have increased crime, increased violent crime. You've had people who've been murdered, killed, maimed, raped, trafficked because of our open border. And these people in D.C., the leftist Democrats, and that's the Democrats, the leftists control the Democrat Party today. They refuse to acknowledge it. And I'll just tell you one other thing. This notion that Joe Biden wants to do this massive supplemental and combine everything there. All the money that he says is going to go into border, it's going to facilitate the trafficking logistics that we do
NGOs,
now.
NGOs, right? Non-governmental organizations.
That's right. They're going to get a bunch of new money. They're going to move these people out more quickly throughout the country. They're not using it to detain people, which is they're required to do under law. They're not using it to remove people. That's what's going on here. And so people should not be confused by the $6 to $10 billion that this administration wants. They want to facilitate further destruction and erasure of our southern border.
Congressman, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you more than you can imagine. I think that the work you're doing is incredible and extraordinary for the American people. You hold that line and you hold people accountable on Capitol Hill. And that's all you can do. And it's up to us to help you do that. Thank you so much. Get out there and vote. I know you're going to vote the right way. You're a great fighter for the American people, and you're always welcome on the show.
Thanks, Sarah. It's good to see you again.
I want to thank again Congressman Andy Biggs for coming on the show. It was so great to have you on, Congressman. You know you're always welcome to come back on the show anytime. You're a real fighter for the American people, and you are always, always welcome here. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show here on your favorite podcast app. I don't care if it's Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. Please pray for peace in the world, and God bless the great state of Texas. Folks, what happens when we die? Right now, from Angel Studios, the force behind Sound of Freedom and The Chosen, comes an unprecedented deep dive into the phenomena of near-death experiences in the new movie, After Death. I'm so excited to see this film. This is a subject that I think matters so much to all of us. It's the big question, right? Are we alone? Where do we go from here? Is there a God, right? After Death makes a courageous venture into a hotly debated, mysterious subject by comparing near-death experience with cutting-edge scientific knowledge. Hear from experts in the fields of science, philosophy, and medicine, as well as firsthand experiences of people who have lived through death as they paint a fascinating picture of life in the next realm. I know so many of us struggle with this, right? We've had loved ones who have passed away. We wonder if they're still with us, if they hear us, if they know that we're there. We wonder, is there something more to life than just the world that we live in? I absolutely do believe in that. I absolutely have a deep faith in God. And I believe that this isn't it, that our journey is far longer than we can ever imagine, that we go far beyond this world and this realm. And I think this movie is important right now. Why? Because it gives us hope. I think we live in a world where we see so much pain, and so many of us and so many of our youth, and I especially believe like for teenagers and people in college, you know, they're struggling so much, even with their own faith, that a film like this can kind of set them in the right motion, right? Set them in the right trajectory. And it opens up our minds to the possibilities, right? And that is a good thing. And personally, I just think it's fascinating. This is a groundbreaking project. It responds to the soul's innate desire to find meaning in life and solace in the future. Come see it for yourself and pay it forward by providing a free ticket for others to see the film. I'm super excited. I'm going to go with my family this weekend. I think it's much better than watching some really ghoulish, scary film that's going to make me feel horrible around Halloween. I want to watch something that's going to uplift me. Leave your preconceptions at the door and prepare for a never before seen glimpse into what the next life could entail in After Death in theaters now. Get your tickets today and pay it forward at angel.com/Carter. That's angel.com/Carter. After Death. The end is only the beginning. Rated PG-13.